sacred code is supernatural and cosmic. It bridges starseed origins, galactic contact, and remembrance. DNA activation, soul memory, psychic development, intuition, timeline shifting, and manifestation, ancient wisdom, modern consciousness, and real-world embodiment. It's where the supernatural becomes natural again. It's not fantasy, not an escape, but as a powerful tool to be used, as a powerful truth to be understood. The reason you are called here is not because you're here to follow. You're here to remember who you are. Your soul carries the code. This space simply helps you unlock them safely, clearly, and powerfully. You're not broken, and you're not late. You're not imagining it. You're remembering. Welcome to the Sacred Code. The dark night of the soul isn't punishment, it's initiation. It's the moment when everything that once gave you meaning just goes quiet. The beliefs don't comfort you anymore, the identities don't fit, old dreams lose their charge, and the world you built carefully and very bravely suddenly just feels hollow. It's not because you failed, it's simply because you outgrew it. The dark night arrives when the soul is ready to be stripped of illusion, not to break you, but to free you. It takes away what's false, borrowed, performative, inherited, and it removes the masks that you didn't know you were wearing. It dissolves the old stories you told yourself just to survive. And it hurts. Because the ego feels like it's dying. Because certainty disappears. You can't go back, but you can't see forward yet. And you might feel lost, disconnected, exhausted, unseen. You may grieve versions of yourself that no longer exist. You may question God, purpose, love, even your own worth. But underneath all of that, something holy is happening. The dark night is the soul returning to its truth. It's the collapse before coherence, the emptying before embodiment, the silence before the voice becomes your own. This is where power is reforged, not as control, but as clarity, not as identity, but as essence. And one day, quietly, you just notice that you don't need the old answers anymore, that you're not afraid of the dark, that you trust yourself, that you feel real, because you didn't lose your light. You just learned how to be it. Hi, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Hey.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Jen.
Hello. I was just looking for a link to share to my followers. I couldn't find one.
Okay. It's on my my Facebook wall.
Okay.
And I did tag you and Mary both in it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And we're also, for those who might be listening and can't find us elsewhere, we're also on YouTube, Mystical Awakenings Broadcast with a V.
Nice. Okay.
So I want to start with thank you, Jen, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yes.
We haven't seen you since Michigan UFO Contact, and I've been so excited today to be able to spend some time with you.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I'm in Texas right now, so I'm in the South.
Where it's a little bit warmer than where we are.
It is going to be like 70.
Just trying to rub it in.
It's been cold here, though. I got here and it was 40.
Right. Yeah, for Texas, that's very cold.
Yes. I only brought one sweatshirt and I didn't bring any winter hats. So yesterday I had to go buy one because we're going camping this weekend and it's going to be like 30 something degrees at night.
Yeah, that's almost like being home, isn't it?
Well, no, it's below zero at home.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's snow. So there's no snow here.
Oh, well, that's a good thing.
Yes.
I know some of the southern states have snow, so I'm glad Texas does not.
Yes.
So you and Mary had a discussion that kind of kicked this whole show off. So I'm just going to let you guys talk about that. I'm very intrigued. I've heard some of it. So
I was trying to remember which thing started that.
And I think it all started with a post that like it was like the biggest battle I ever had to fight was myself. And you reached out to me in Messenger and you said that hit home. And so you said, go check out my post. And it was
Okay.
It did make sense, especially when we were talking, before the show, that there's so many people who are going through things like this and then get stuck with this diagnosis of mental illness when it wasn't that in the first place. And then that's just who they identify for the rest of their lives when there's different options. And you had an amazing story connected with that.
Okay. So how that started was when in the 90s, I had a really bad anxiety disorder. I was working in an office and I was having an increasingly hard time leaving my house. I just had a severe anxiety disorder, panic disorder, and then I got diagnosed with agoraphobia. So I was afraid to leave my house. In the end, I walked out of my office and I never went back. I couldn't get out of my house. I was literally imprisoned by my fear in my house. I would walk outside my door and I would have a panic attack that felt like a heart attack. I would hyperventilate. I would have chest pain. I thought I was dying for sure if I took one more step further from my house. I completely lost myself to this extreme fear. And so there I was at home and I had to start working a job from home. So I started doing like daycare so that I didn't have to leave. And in 1998, I got internet, the dial-up. And so I was online playing Scrabble with a lady from somewhere. I didn't even know where. And she started chatting with me. And she says, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm at home now because I'm stuck here. And I told her I had panic disorder with agoraphobia. She says, oh, I used to have that. And I said, what do you mean you used to have that? To me, that was the biggest thing in the world. I didn't think you could get past it. It was so big and I didn't think you could beat it. And she says, oh yeah, I beat that. And I'm stronger now than I ever was before. And her words just hit me. It hit me so hard. Like, really? You can beat this? I didn't think it was possible before I met her. And I don't even know her name. I don't even know how to reach out and say thank you to her for making that become a possibility in my reality. But after I met her and heard the things that she shared with me, I started to go to counseling, and I'd have to have someone who I was very close to take me because I wouldn't leave the house alone. And so I started going to this counseling, and really hard I worked at trying to beat that. And in that process, I learned how to fight my fears and how to stand up and face those fears until they were gone. And I started doing that little bit by little bit, but there were so many of them. It took me 2 years to get out of my house again. And the things that I had to do, she would give me assignments. So one of my first assignments was drive to the gas station by yourself and then drive home. That was a big deal. Get in your car and drive to the gas station. It's like, whoa. So then the next one was get in your car and drive to the gas station, walk into the gas station, stand there for 3 seconds and leave. Oh, big deal. I mean, this sounds like really strange, right? The next assignment was drive to the gas station, get out of your car, go inside, buy a pack of gum. I mean, these were my assignments, my homework assignments. So that's how bad it was, that this was a really big, hard thing for me to do. But through that, I learned how to fight my fears and to challenge them and to always challenge them. And it became like a process that I was automatically challenging my fears after a while, right? I would stop my anxious, fearful thoughts and I would analyze, that's a fear, and I would rewrite my thought into something more positive, the opposite. And I had to do that for every single thought that I was having. Now, these thoughts originate in the subconscious mind. So they're starting before you're even aware of them. And so you have to work on it really hard to get through that. And by the time I was considered to be better from panic disorder and agoraphobia, I still had fears in there, but I still kept automatically challenging them as the years went by. So we'll fast forward quite a few years, and I'm in my 30s at this point, and I'm going through what I call my massive spiritual awakening, right? And I've always been intuitive. I've always known things ahead of time, but I always fought it. I didn't want it. I didn't want to be weird or strange or, so I was always fighting it. But at this point, I was allowing it to happen and just embracing it because I learned how to do Reiki, and it just helped me with that so much. And so now I started going through what I call limbo. And so, through hindsight, I can assess what was happening to me at the time, but at the time I had no clue. And I am part Native American. I'm an enrolled tribal member at the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians in northern Minnesota. And I had my Native elder, my Wet'en, he was there to guide me through things that I was not sure about. He was also a mental health professional. So I felt like I was getting really good advice when I was not sure if I was okay or not. But so I'm going through my spiritual awakening, and through that process, I realized after the fact that I was encountering fear barriers that were what I call foundational fear barriers, things that became fears for me at the beginning when I was just a very small child, and all the other fears were built on top of them. So because of them. And so now when I'm down to the foundational fears that are still in place, they were so big, and I had let go of my perception of reality because I recognized it was not accurate, because everybody perceives the world through their own perception filters, through their own experiences, through their own expectations, through their own painful hurts that they haven't released. And so I realized that my perception of reality was not correct. So I let go of it, and I stepped into what I call the limbo space. And in that space, it's kind of like Alice in Wonderland. Everything's kind of creepy, but kind of cool. And there's weird stuff going on there. And it's the kind, you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of scary, kind of cool. There's a lot of stuff going on that you've never seen before. And in the real world aspect of that, there's a lot of psychic information that comes through there that isn't normally available. It's a lot more in your face. But then that's also where your fears come to life. In front of your face, in the real world, right in front of you. And it feels super weird. I'm going to tell you one of the experiences that I had so you can understand it. I was a massage therapist. I worked from home. I had an office built onto the front of my house. And I had a new client come in, and he had the most beautiful blue eyes. They were like an ocean. I'd never seen eyes like that before. And I was sure they must be contact lenses, and I wanted to get them. So I'm like, pen and paper, what kind of contacts are those? I'm totally ordering them. And he said, these aren't contacts. These are my real eyes. I'm like, no way. Are your eyes that color? I've never seen eyes that color before. And so I look really close, and sure enough, he wasn't wearing contacts. I was just like, wow, that's beautiful. So he gets on my table and he falls asleep. And I normally work with my eyes closed, but when I'm working on their face or their head, and their shoulders, I open my eyes so I don't poke them somewhere. And so I open my eyes and I look down at him, and his face morphed into what looked like a demon. And I was scared to death. But he's snoring, so he's asleep. And so I was like, okay, he's here. Is he here for me? Am I in trouble? Is he here to get me? All these thoughts were going through my head, very fearful thoughts, right? And I was like, oh, he's sleeping. I'll just pretend like I didn't see him. I'll just pretend like I don't know. And so I just finished him up and scooted him out the door as quick as possible, right? Then I called my elder and I was like, help, help, help. This guy was just here. And his face morphed into a demon, and I pretended I didn't see him. And he said, don't worry about him. He cannot hurt you. And I'm just like, but are they coming for me now? I mean, what's going on? Are they coming for me? And he's like, They cannot hurt you. Do not be afraid of them. And he always said this to me when I would reach a fear barrier, always, because I would always end up on the phone with him, help, help, help. and he said, I know that this is hard for you, but because this is hard for you, it's going to be easier for everybody else. You just have to keep going. Do not fear it. Do not fear it. They cannot hurt you, right? So because I was a Reiki master teacher at that point, I would just fill myself with energy and push that out from me and refuse to fear it. And the way it felt was like if you were tiny into those plastic bubble wrap bubbles. If you were in a plastic bubble wrap bubble and somebody started squeezing it, and it was right before it was going to pop, the pressure inside that bubble was intense. The pressure, everything just got worse. Everything was super scary. Everything was super real. Everything was like, I'm going to die if I do one more thing. Those were the thoughts that were going on in my head. And as soon as I stopped fearing it, it was like the plastic in the bubble was begging me for more fear. Feed me more fear. Feed me more strength. And when I refused to do that, and I just did Reiki and sent love out from me in every direction, it was like the bubble popped and it literally went snap. And the power and the energy just flowed right into me. Everything just was all better all of a sudden. Everything became brighter. The room got brighter. Colors became more vibrant. People were nicer. My entire perception of reality changed from that moment on. It was better. It got better from that moment on. And that was what I now call a fear barrier. I went through quite a few of them. They were never the same. Never the same. I experienced that for all of 10 or 15 minutes and it never happened again. My elder never told me that that guy's not a demon. He never said that to me. We never had that conversation. But through thinking about it after the fact, through going through all the different barriers, I realized that was my fear come to life. That was my fear come to life and trying to back me away from the door into my new perception of reality, right? It was trying to scare me away from that door.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after going through quite a few fear barriers, and they were all different, every single one of them was a different fear. Every single one of them was different. That was the only time I ever saw somebody morph into a demon, and I never saw it happen again. Had I gone and told a mental health professional off the reservation that this is what I saw, what would have happened to me? My elder, who was a mental health professional on the reservation, told me, don't tell anybody else. Don't tell anybody else this. They won't understand. And I said, do you understand? Have you seen this? And he said, not that exactly, but enough the things the same that I know exactly what you're going through. And just don't fear it. Just keep going and don't tell anybody else. And because he knew if I told somebody else, I would get diagnosed with something pretty bad. And if I believed that diagnosis, I would stay there in that place.
Mm-hmm.
And when I had these realizations after I'd gone through all these fear barriers, and I realized that the possibility that the majority, if not all of the people who are, in quotes, mentally ill, are perhaps just stuck in that limbo place. And they got diagnosed and they believed their diagnosis, so they couldn't choose a new door. They couldn't face their fears. They kept running away from them. And they stayed in that perception of reality, which to me, I just started crying because I was like, that was the scariest thing ever.
Right.
That was the scariest thing ever. And it was all happening inside of me. It was completely within inside of me. And I didn't understand that at the time. He couldn't have told me that that wasn't real. That wouldn't have gone okay for me. He just told me that it couldn't hurt me and that I had to stand up against it and not fear it. And that's how I got through that. And through every barrier after the fact. There was one thing that always stayed constant through every barrier. I always felt like if I did one more movement forward, I would die. I always felt that. And I just always felt that. And at one point when I went through a fear barrier, I felt my body lighten and I felt like I was leaving my body. I thought for sure I was going to die. So I ran into my office because my kids were coming home soon and I didn't want them to find my body. because it literally felt like I was leaving my body. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want my kids to find me on the floor. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So, I mean, so through this process, I started developing an idea about what happens with people who are mentally ill. And I started talking to clients of mine who were mental health professionals. Anytime I got in the vicinity of a mental health professional, I started asking them questions like, why do you counsel people like this? Why do you dig down to their childhood? Why don't you just go for the bottom? If they are like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, the tower that got built, that it was crooked, obviously the foundation was wrong. If you could just find out where that foundation was wrong and give it a swift kick, if you could adjust it, perhaps the rest of the building would adjust on top of it. Perhaps it would be what you need. And I said, why don't you go straight for what's wrong at the bottom? And she said, we don't know what's wrong at the bottom, Jen. That's why we have to keep digging. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? It's pretty easy to see it. And so I was showing it inside of her. Even if somebody is not considered mentally ill, this is true for all people. If you look at the definition of enlightenment, to glimpse the true nature of reality, to be enlightened, right? That alone tells us that it's a rare thing to see the true nature of reality. So we're all sitting there not seeing things exactly right? So I started talking to this client of mine who was a mental health counselor, and I said enough things that got her interested, and I showed it inside of herself. And she says, Jen, I think you might have figured out something we don't know yet. Can I bring some colleagues over to talk to you? And I said, sure. So she brought some colleagues over, and I talked with them about what I talked with her about. And they agreed that I had really interesting ideas, and they wanted to see what I could do with a mental health patient. So they gave me one. I had never had a psych class, not even in high school. To this day, I've never taken a psych class. So they gave me a mental health patient to see if I could help her. And it was a patient of this counselor that was my client. She had been her mental health care professional for 5 to 6 years, and she had been considered severely mentally ill for more than 20 years. They had tried everything, shock treatments, everything. And what was interesting about her was that she really wanted to be better. So some people, they don't really want to be better because that's their identity. You know what I'm talking about? They'll tell you all about it, and then they pick it back up and take it home because that's who they are, right? This lady, she truly wanted to be better. And she wanted to be better. She wanted to help. So she started telling me her list of diagnoses. She said she had agoraphobia. She had panic disorder. Oh, I have those. I had that. She said she had manic depression, bipolar disorder. She said schizophrenia. And I said, stop. I don't want to hear anymore. All I want you to tell me are the things that she complains about seeing and hearing. Tell me that. And she said, well, she sees colors. I'm like, great. I love that. What do you think that is? And she says, well, she's hallucinating. I said, no, she's not. She's not hallucinating when she sees colors. And she hears disembodied voices. I'm like, okay, they might be real. You don't know. And so I said, I would love to talk with her. So that she didn't like people to touch her. So when she accidentally told her I was a massage therapist, she didn't want to see me because she thought I'd probably want to touch her then. And we made an agreement with her and her husband that we would work with her for free as long as we could share it like an open book. And they said yes. So this is all okay for me to share. Anyway, so I told the counselor, I said, okay, tell her that you're coming over for a foot spa treatment, which I don't even offer. That's not even a service that I offered, but I had a foot spa bath for myself. So I said, well, just tell her you're going to come over and have your feet done. So if I'm busy doing that for you, I can't be touching her. So she can just talk to me while I work on your feet. And she's like, okay. So at that time, I had a very small home office, and I had 2 green chairs and then just enough space to walk in front of them. So they sat in the chairs, and I purposely sat on the floor barefoot, very unprofessional. I had rocks underneath my chair, and just I had placed different things underneath there that I could just quickly grab because I thought I might need them. So I started talking. They came in, and I started talking to her while I was working on Miranda's feet. And I said, "Do you see colors?" And she said, "Nope, nope, nope, nope. I don't see colors anymore. I don't hallucinate anymore. No, I don't. I don't." I said, "Well, that's too bad. I see colors. I thought maybe we could talk about it." And she's like, "Nope, nope, nope." And so then we just kept talking and whatever. And pretty soon she said, "You have blue and green all around you." I'm like, "Oh, well, that's great. Do you know what they mean?" She's like, "No." She was scared of it because she was told that was a hallucination. And so underneath the chair that Miranda was sitting on, I had a printout of what the aura colors mean. And I grabbed it and I handed it to Miranda. I said, "Miranda, can you look up those colors and tell us what they mean while I work on your feet?" And so they had different colors of blue and different colors of green. So she showed it to her and she says, "Can you pick out which colors they were?" And so she did. And so she started reading what those colors meant. And Miranda says, "Well, I know, Jen, that describes her perfectly. That does describe Jen." And I said, "See, that's a real thing that you're seeing. It's not a hallucination. Do not be afraid of it." And I told her that this is a good thing. It tells you more about people without having to get real close to them. If someone's a bad person, you're going to see it. You don't even have to get close. You're always safe, my girl. And and then I asked her, do you like rocks?" And she's like, "Yeah, I like rocks a lot." And so I grabbed out my box of rocks from underneath the chair. I'm like, "These are my rocks that I found. Do you want to see them?" She's like, "Yeah." And we did all this play stuff, but in the process, I was showing her about feeling energy of this and feeling energy of that, and talking about all the different things that she was told were part of her mental illness, but was just really psychic information that they didn't understand, right? And then we started encountering fear stuff because she was in that limbo place. And so the way that she describes what happened is she says that she was in her own little world for 20 years and she was stuck in there. She says, "Jen walked in there, held my hand, and we walked out of there together." And because I told her, this is real. This is what it means. It's a good thing. Don't be scared of it. And that's a fear. Does that make you feel scared? It does. Well, that's a fear. Throw it away. Throw it away. It's lying to you. It's hiding something good from you. Throw it away. She was the easiest person I ever helped. She was the easiest person I ever helped. And I couldn't figure out why this was working so fast. But then it hit me. She's been considered severely mentally ill for more than 20 years. For more than 20 years, she believed she could not trust her own perception of reality. She believed she was mentally ill. So when I told her that's not real, throw it away, she did. She didn't fight it.
Wow.
She's like, "Okay, it's not real." Boom, it's gone. And we just ran. We ran through her limbo and we ran out the other side. And it wasn't like one set. Each session we did was 3 hours long. I think it was the first session, the counselor started crying spontaneously quite a few times. And we would just look at her and, "Why are you crying?" And she's like, "It's working." It's working. And by the end of the first session, the patient jumped out of her chair and tackled me to hug me. And the counselors just started bawling. "Oh my God. Oh my God. You're touching her. You're touching her. It took me 5 years for her to let her hug her." And even then she was like cringing, allowing it to happen. But she leaped out of her chair. I didn't ask her for a hug. She leaped out of her chair to embrace me because she was so happy that somebody was finally with her that understood her and she was going to get help for the first time. And so every Tuesday we met for 3 hours and we did this. By the third session, I had said, "Bring your husband in." She was struggling at home because she was changing so fast and they didn't know how to change with her. They couldn't fathom that she could do these things now that she couldn't do before. And so I said, "Bring your husband in." And so the third session, she brought her husband in and I had him sitting there. I'm still on the floor. I'm always on the floor. So she comes in, she slips her shoes off and I grab her toes because I also do reflexology. I would always check her brain points on her toes, right? I was pinching her toes and working on her toes. And I'm talking to her husband, and I notice he's not listening to me. He's got his eyes locked on my hands. And so I put my head way down where my hands were, and I said, "Hey, talking to you, buddy. I'm over here. Are you listening? I need you to listen to me right now. What's going on?" And he's like, "You're touching her." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're touching her." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "I don't get to touch her. Why do you get to touch her?" And she says, "Oh, it's just Jen. She touches me all the time." He's like, "What?" He couldn't even hear me. He was just locked in on you touching her. And so I'm like, well, this is the deal. We're working on this and we're fixing it. So this is going to be part of the changes that are happening. And we need you to flow with that because she is getting better. It's going to happen fast. It is happening fast. And I need you to work with that with her and with the kids so that you're not holding her back when she's changing. And, when we were done, it was amazing. The counselor said, "You fixed the hardest patient I ever had." And we do not use the word fixed in my profession. And she says, "You fixed her." And she was supposed to write up a mental health case study so they could publish the findings of what they've discovered. After the first session, she started videotaping it because she said it was happening too fast. She didn't know what was happening. Even with the video, she didn't understand what I was doing. She couldn't. And I was like, this is the simplest thing ever. Why don't you understand? My hope was that if I was correct, if I could help people that were considered seriously mentally ill, if I could help them come out of that place, if they were in fact in limbo, if I could help them out of that place, that I could teach counselors all over the world to do it. And they are already helping these people, that they could help these people. That was my hope. That was my intention, that if I was right, that that's what we could do. And I discovered that mental health professionals don't understand what I was doing at all. And for me, what I thought was super obvious and easy, I think was probably psychic information that they just don't know. And so it didn't go where we thought. She wrote up the medical study quite a few times, and I read it and I said, "That's not right. That's not what was happening. That's not what I did." But she's like, "I don't understand what you did. I watched it. I see that it worked. You fixed her. I just don't understand what you did. I don't understand how that happened." And she could never figure it out. So that was sad. We didn't get to go where we wanted to go with that. Because I'm like, all these people are already getting mental health care. It would be so easy, right? That was what I was really hoping. And all of a sudden, what my elder used to say to me, and he used to say, "I know this is hard for you, but because it's hard for you, it's going to be easier for everybody else." And I used to get so mad at him. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And, after the fact, when I started helping this patient, I was like, I get it. I get it now. It'll be easier for everybody else. It was hard for me, but it doesn't have to be that hard for everybody else. It doesn't have to be. So, I mean, if you want to call that part of ascension, what would you call that, Mary or Deb?
That part of ascension, that's exactly when you read about ascension, and I've quoted it before with Mary Magdalene, exactly what you're saying when you're talking about facing the fears and those fear barriers. I see you, but you didn't see me. All those little things, that's a natural stage of life. We're supposed to go through those fear barriers. That's what we're supposed to do. But we have so much negative energy put into place within those barriers to purposely hold us trapped. And it's the perfect example of what ascension is being able to remember who you are on a soul level and become sovereign because you broke through all those barriers that were put there to hold you back in the first place. It's an awakening. That story was flipping amazing, and you made my whole day.
Oh my God. Yes.
I wanted to cry. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to giggle a little bit. Amazing.
I got to tell you one other thing. Part of that process was the counselor, her name was Miranda. And at one point, the patient and I started interacting with a disembodied spirit that was there. We were both receiving information from him. And we didn't know who he was. He wasn't saying who he was. but we were both receiving information from him, and we were both saying what we were getting. And Miranda knew who it was, and she didn't tell us. So every time we got together, she asked us more about that spirit, and we would tap into him and we would give her more information. Both of us were interacting with him. It was a real spirit, it wasn't. And she was just like, and I think it was after the second or third time we interacted with that male spirit, Miranda told me privately that is her brother who committed suicide.
Oh,
And they had questions. And through the information we were receiving, the answers came. And she said before one of our sessions, if this is really him, I want you to show me this picture. And she had one picture of him. It was a senior picture. He was laying, back in the day when they would lay with their leg up, and he was wearing a peach colored shirt. She said, I want you to show me this picture, show that to them so that they tell me about it. And the patient, she said, I don't know why he's standing like this, but he's got his one foot up on his knee and he's like this, and he's got a peach shirt on, and Miranda just started bawling. Because she had said, if that's really you, show them this picture. And it made her a believer. She wasn't a believer in that stuff before. It made her a believer because we were interacting with her brother. And she wasn't verbalizing the questions that she had out loud. She was just asking through spirit. And the answers were coming to the patient and I. And we were telling her what we were receiving. And they were the answers to her questions that she never told us she had. And
I love this.
Yeah. So, I say in that limbo place, there's a lot of psychic information there, even for people who haven't tapped into that before. It's there. It's real stuff.
Mhm.
And then you have to weed out the differences between what is real psychic information and what is fear come to life in your face. And it is very real. It feels very real. And it's very scary. And I always say, if everything gets worse all of a sudden, everything's all around, if the pressure is on all of a sudden, you're probably standing at a barrier. You're probably right there in front of a door. I had another patient who I knew his wife was a client of mine. And he had mental illness. He had really bad bipolar disorder, depression. And he took off. He stopped taking his meds. He took off. They couldn't find him. They found him in another state living on the street, and he was stuttering. He couldn't hold a sentence, and he was just terrified. And somebody found him and looked in his wallet and called to find her. And so she's like, yeah, that's my husband. We've been looking for him. And so she got him home, and he was seeing mental health professionals. They couldn't get him to stop stuttering, or he looked terrified, big black circles under his eyes. He just awful. And she called me. She's like, Jen, I know you did that work with that patient. Do you think you could see my husband? Do you think maybe you could try it with him? I'm like, sure, I'll try. If you want me to try, I'll try. I can't guarantee anything. I mean, I've only done it one time. And so she brought him over. Again, I sat on the floor, barefoot, all kinds of unprofessional. The process was to be everything but a mental health professional, what they would perceive. I would never write anything down, didn't even have paper. I was playful, everything that was not what they would expect, right? And he was a little different, and every person is a little different. He felt inside that he was so far gone that no one on earth could possibly help him. And when he looked at me, he said, do you believe in fairies? I said, of course I believe in fairies. And he's like, oh, and you could just see the relief come over him. And then he's still looking at me. And then a little bit later, he's like, are you aware that you have fairy wings? And I'm like, don't tell anybody, okay? And I winked at him. And he's like, you could see the relief coming over him again. And then pretty soon he says, you have a fairy crown. Do you know that you have a fairy crown? And I'm like, shh, don't tell anybody. I had no idea what he was talking about. After he left, I looked up what does a fairy crown look like, and what he was seeing was my stellar gateway chakra was open. It looks like a halo. That's what he was seeing. So my stellar gateway, because I was like, what does a fairy crown look like? And it looks like a halo, like ting above the head. And that's the stellar gateway chakra, but outside of the body open. You're familiar with those, I'm sure. So that's what he was saying. And he was seeing my aura was looking like wings. And so, but to him, he was seeing somebody who was extra, who was extrasensory, who was magical, who could maybe help him. And through that, I was able to help him. I took him into my massage room. I laid him on the table. And his wife just was right outside the door. And he was laying face up on the table. And he's said he was seeing all darkness everywhere. And so I closed my eyes and I could see what he was seeing. And I said, I see a door. I see light coming through the edges of the door. Do you see the door? He's like, yeah. I said, go over to the door. He's like, I can't. And he's like, I can't. I'm scared. And I just grabbed a hold of him with both of my arms, like down his arms. I grabbed him real tight, like a hug almost. And I had my face right in his ear. I was talking right in his ear. And I said, go over to the door. I'm right here with you. You're not alone. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm right here. I've got you. And I'm right here with you. You don't have to be afraid. Go over to the door. He's like, no. And he's hyperventilating. And I had already explained to him, being inside that bubble, how everything gets really worse all of a sudden. And it's so bad. But if you just don't fear it and you just go, it'll pop and you'll be okay. Everything will be better. And I had already told him that. And I just kept saying, open the door. Open the door. And he's like, no. And all of a sudden he went, because he opened the door. And all of that energy and that power was flowing into him. And the fear was completely gone. And he sat up. He said, holy shit. When we opened to my room and his wife saw him, his black circles were gone. He was standing up straight. He was no longer stuttering, and he was him again. So he was stuck in that limbo place.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't think anyone human could help him. We never said, I might not be a fairy. I mean, maybe I am. But it doesn't matter. I will be whatever anybody needs me to be in that moment. Mm-hmm. And so when we talked to the mental health professionals that I was working with on that study, I said, I would really like to see what I could do in a group. In a group hospital situation, I would love to see if I could help people in a group. I said, the only thing is the staff would have to know whatever we're doing, whatever we're talking about, they need to just be like, yeah, cool. They cannot say that's not real. They cannot, because it's part of the process. And you don't know what's psychically real and what's not, right? So I said they would have to be completely in alignment with just letting us do what we're doing. Mm-hmm. It would be a process, an ongoing process. I never got the chance to do that. I did go into a facility that was like a day center for people to go and be together during the day. And they said, these people won't talk to you. They're not going to interact with you. I got up and started talking about fear barriers and perception filters. And people are like, yeah. And they started talking to me. And the staff was like, they're talking to her? And I said, when I went through this, my biggest complaint was, why did I have to wait so long? Why did it have to be this long in my life? Why did I waste all those years in that torture of a place of perception of reality? Why was it so long? And I said, why couldn't it have been earlier? And one guy in the back was like, yeah, why can't it be now? Why did it have to be so long? Why did I have to go through all of that? Why did I have to suffer for so long? And I said, the fact that you're feeling that now means you don't have to suffer anymore. Right? You don't have to anymore. But the fact that they still think that they're mentally ill once they've gone through the barriers, that's the problem. Mm-hmm. And that was the problem that I had with the patient that I had, the one that we did the case study on. She telling her that she was completely fine was hard because she couldn't grasp the concept that she was completely fine now. So what I did was she didn't want to give up her Tuesday nights with me. She wanted to come be with me every Tuesday night for the rest of our lives. And, you know, that's just, I mean, as much as I love her and would love to spend time with her, I just couldn't keep doing that all the time. And she needed to know that she was okay. So I ended up deciding that I would open a group for my Reiki students because I teach Reiki. I opened a group for my Reiki students, and I decided to do what I call guided learning. And so rather than just allowing them to learn their own life lessons on their own with their Reiki, I started guiding them through lessons. And some of the things I discovered, lessons I discovered working with that patient, things that I called mirrors all around, that everyone is perceiving themselves all around them all the time. And you have to understand that everything that you see is an aspect of yourself. And so how do you deal with that? Things like that. Those were the kind of lessons we were doing. So I opened a group class for my Reiki students on Tuesday nights during the time I was supposed to be with the patient. And I said, I can't see you anymore unless you want to come to group. You can come to group. Come to group. I wanted her to come to group. And she resisted coming to group for a while. So I just kept doing my group. And eventually she came because she couldn't handle not seeing me. She wanted to see me. So she comes to group. And so she was very quiet. She observed a lot of what we were doing. She observed them. She was assessing all of them. And at the end of group, everybody would leave and she would stay, and I would ask her to assess the group. And she would go through each person and tell me what she thought they were struggling with and what they needed help with. And we were analyzing each person indirectly, like each one. This person is struggling with this and needs help with that. This one, this. And I'd say, okay, do you feel like you are mentally healthier than that person? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, how about that one? Are you mentally healthier, in a better place than that one? Oh, definitely. I feel so sorry for her. She's got so long to go, so far to go. And we went through each person and I asked her to, compare her mental health to that person's mental health. And she was always way better. They always had ways to go. She felt sad for them that they weren't there yet. Okay, good. And so every time she came to group, we stayed after and we assessed each person in comparison to her. She self-assessed, told me what she thought of each person and where they were at and what they needed to do, and how she compared to them in her current mental health status. And so we did this for a while. And when she would get scared or whatever, and she'd call me from home, I would just redirect her and ask her to assess the group. Tell me about the group. What do you think about the group? And so I would always move us to talking about the group. And then eventually I said, I don't understand how you still think there's something wrong with you, because even you have assessed yourself as mentally healthier than everyone in our group. And they are all completely normal, average people who are not mentally ill. She's like, what? I said, they're not mental health patients. They're just normal people. And it was through that process that she had to discover, she self-assessed against all of them, that she was mentally healthier than all of them for quite some time before I threw that at her. And she was like, what? I'm like, none of them have been institutionalized. None of them are in mental health care. None of them. They're all normal people. And that's how normal people are. Everybody's struggling with something and they don't even know it. Everyone is punishing themselves and they don't even know it. And what people talk about, like, what is karma? What my tribe calls the sacred hoop or the sacred circle. Everything you send out grows and moves through the circle and comes back to you. It may not come back to you from the person you think it should come back from, but everything comes back to you from the circle. Everything you send out, everything you think, everything you feel, everything you expect, all of the things that you think all of those things you're sending out into the circle, and it comes back to you. It grows bigger and it comes back to you. And that's good and it's bad. So that's what they call karma. A lot of times when people talk about karma, they think only of the bad things. Their karma is going to catch up with them. Well, karma's good too. Karma has a good aspect to it too. Yeah. And so through the process of all of this, I started really studying the sacred hoop or the sacred circle or what people call karma. And I discovered that there are some aspects to that that I don't think that people understand. Because I had a friend who was always like, he's going to get his when karma comes back for him. And then she would complain that karma never came back for him. And I have this one story, and it was such an eye opener for me. She was my best friend. She was going through an awful divorce. Her husband was an alcoholic who had like at least 10 DUIs, but he never had a driver's license during any of that. And he was still not in prison for it. And she's like, he never gets in trouble. He just gets by with it all the time. And, why does he get by with it? Why doesn't karma come for him? I just want the police to show up at the door, arrest him at the house, cuff him, and lay him on the spread eagle face down in the front yard and have everybody come out and watch him get arrested. Right there. I want that to happen. She said that all the time in great detail. And I kept saying, why do you keep sending that out? Stop sending that out. Why do you want that to happen so bad? Just forgive him and get out of the way. Get out of the way. You're standing in the way of his karma. But with all this, I want this to happen. So then one day she calls me from jail. Some police had come to her door, taken her onto the front of yard, laid her down on the ground, spread eagle, and cuffed her while all the neighbors came out and saw. It was exactly the thing that she always hoped that would happen to her husband. What for? Because when he left, he canceled the insurance on the car and she got pulled over and got charged with not having car insurance. And supposedly had got thrown out of court by her lawyer, but all of a sudden there was a warrant that she didn't show up to court. And so they came to arrest her, and that's how it happened. And she's calling me to come and get her from the jail. And she tells me what they did to her, and it was exactly word for word everything she kept saying she wanted to happen to him. And I said, if you don't see that this is your karma, I don't know what can tell you that. But this is exactly what you hope to happen to him. You kept putting that into your circle. You kept sending that out into your circle. And maybe the reason it hasn't happened to him yet is because you keep standing in the way, right? You're like a bulletproof vest because you won't forgive him and step out of his circle. You're just standing in his circle, taking it for him, right? And the more I saw that, I mean, I have to thank her for showing me that lesson, because I probably wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't seen it in her. It was so blatantly obvious. I mean, because generally they don't lay you flat on the ground to cuff you and neighbors come out. That doesn't normally happen, does it?
And she must have had a fun night.
Yeah. I did go bail her out, but I typically don't have. I have a thing that don't call me from jail ever. You can call me from the bar. I'll always come and get you.
Right.
Do not call me from the jail.
Oh, geez. What great stories, Jen.
So, yeah.
And I love that you're here doing this for a few different reasons. One, it's fantastic information that all of us going through Ascension needs, right? Also, people know you as Jen from She Squatchers, which is an amazing group. I love what you do, but Jen is way more than that. You are really, truly a spiritual leader. You have so many abilities. You're a healer. You were a speaker at Michigan UFO Contact last September. And I'm sure Mary was there as well. We were blown away with your talk, but to think about that talk and the power behind you, to try to visualize you as somebody with anxiety disorder that can't leave home.
It's wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it just doesn't fit.
Amazing.
So
I gotta
love
say
that you do this, because I
gotta say, there's times where I say I probably should have been scared of that, but I wasn't. And I think about how far I've come. How far did I come? And then I say, there's people out there who have just anxiety. They just have anxiety.
Mhm.
and they just avoid the things they fear for their whole life, and they can get away with that because it's not paralyzing them, right? Now,
Mhm.
panic disorder is genetic. I don't know if you know that, but you have to have the
No.
gene for it. And then something, you have to go through a traumatic experience to break these things in your head. It's literally two brain mechanisms and something else, but it's the physical breaking of the fight or flight response. So it just
Hmm.
automatically goes off, right? So, but you have to have the gene for it. So when I got diagnosed with it, the doctor said, well, who else in your family has this? I said, I've never even heard of this in my life. I don't know what you're talking about. He goes, well, there's somebody else in your family. I guarantee you. Maybe you don't know them. Maybe they've been in their house your whole life. So I went home and called my mom, and my mom said, oh yeah, my cousin Gloria. I'm like, who? She's like, yeah, you don't know her. She's in her house. She's been in her house. And she hadn't beat it. She didn't beat it. She's just stuck in her house. So, it's something that a traumatic experience has to happen in order to break that, but it is genetic. So everybody in the family
Mhm.
has the gene. And so you have to reroute your thoughts around it, like retraining your brain and reformatting your brains. I've been studying the brain since the 90s because of this. And I say that most people can avoid their fears and get by. That doesn't paralyze them, and they are able to function, but they still have the fears. They just act like they don't have them, and they avoid the things that they fear.
Mhm.
But then there's the people who are paralyzed because it gets so bad. And we either have to give into it and surrender to it and live our life like that, trapped in those fears, or we have to stand and fight until we beat them. And then we come out the other side stronger than we've ever been. And it's so hard for me to remember that I couldn't even drive to the gas station to get a pack of gum without feeling like I was going to die. And
Wow.
now I'm out there. I've been 30 feet from a Bigfoot. Was not scared. Before I did Bigfoot, I was doing psychic work, and I was doing remote viewing for paranormal teams. Before they'd go to a location that was haunted, they'd ask me to look at it and tell them what I thought was going on there. And so I was doing that for homes that psychics were too scared to go to, because when they connected to it, it was something really big, bad, and scary that was there. And I was the one going into those places going, bring it. I'm not scared. Bring it. And something that came at me like a demon, because sometimes ghosts will pretend to be a demon. And I'd be like, whoa, honey, you must be really scared of me to be coming at me like that. What are you so scared of? And I wouldn't back down. I wouldn't run out the door. I wouldn't do any of that. And
Good for
so,
you.
again, I was doing things that I think back of where I started, and I'm like, wow, look how far I've come. I need to pat myself on the back because that was a lot of work. But, I hope by sharing the story of it, that it makes it possible to whoever's out there that's hearing it,
Mhm.
that is maybe struggling with something similar, that they don't have to. It is
Mhm.
something you can beat. It's not bigger than you. It's nothing outside of you. It's all within you. It's you. And you know what I discovered through the process too? A lot of the foundational fears that people have are things that they were taught or misunderstood when they were small children. So, and which was it? Were they taught that, or was it misunderstood? I don't know. But maybe it was something that even their parents misunderstood at small children, and it became a belief for them, and they passed it
Mhm.
on. Where did it start? I'm not even sure. But for me, mine was a lot of the religion stuff was created fears that were foundational. One of my foundational fears that I had was that God was not pleased with the world. God was wrathful and judgmental and was gonna 2 seconds away from destroying us all. That was a belief that I had in there, and it was a hard one to beat. That was a hard one.
Mhm.
That was a hard one to beat. But there is a process of, my native teaching says that you should walk the good red road. And when I'd ask, what is the good red road exactly? What is that? And my elder said, well, it's the longest and hardest road you'll ever walk. Some people never even start the journey to walk that road. Some people walk it their whole life and never get there. And some people walk it and they eventually do get there. But it is a very difficult and hard journey. But the walk is only really 18 inches long. It's the walk that goes out of your head and into your heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in that process, he knew that one of my really deep fears was that God was displeased with the earth and was going to send an angel to destroy us. And he put me in a situation where he told me that was happening right now, unless I did this one thing that I didn't want to do. And I was on the phone with him. And so we would talk on the phone. He always would start our call with, "You want to walk with me a while?" And in that process, he would tell me stories and I could close my eyes and I saw him. We were together, we were walking and we were holding hands and we were walking. You know, I would always hear the stories and we would walk up to the river and we would do this or that, or we'd go flying. He's like, "Let's fly." Eventually we could fly, you know, and we would do all this stuff journeying together. And I was just on the phone with him. And so he did this to me when I was on the phone, where he told me that this was happening. And unless I did this ceremony right now and had to do this thing, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. And do you want to hear what he did? What he told me was happening?
Of course.
Okay. So he told me that nobody's doing ceremonies anymore and God is mad. The Creator is mad. Nobody is doing their ceremonies anymore. So you have to do a sacrifice right now. You have to sacrifice your dog. I loved my dog, like to the moon and back. Like that was my baby. And I looked at her. She's looking at me. And I'm on the phone and I'm looking at her. And he's like, "You have to do it right now. There's an angel in the west. He's going to destroy the earth right now. If you don't do it right now, everybody's going to die." And I'm like, no, I can't. I don't know. I can't do that. He's like, "She's going to die anyway. You're going to die too. Everybody's going to die. You have to save us. You have to do it right now." I'm like, "No, I cannot do that. No. Mm-mm." And in my mind, I was like, "Oh my God, we're going to die," because that was a real fear that I had. And, you know, to me, it was a very real thing. And all of a sudden because I felt like I was pushed into a corner in a rock in a hard place. We're all going to die. You have to do it. You have to do it now. It's all up to you. And all of a sudden I felt like I went, whoop, and I was in my heart. I literally was there. And in that place, I had absolute knowing. There was absolutely zero fear. And I absolutely knew for 100% fact that would never happen in a million years. And I started screaming from here as I my consciousness came roaring up out of my chest. I was screaming at him, "That would never happen in a million years. What is wrong with you? Why would you want me to kill my dog?" And I was cussing and calling him names. I was pissed. And I'm like, "You sick man. What is wrong with you? You want me to kill my dog?" And I was scared of him in that moment. Like, who am I talking to? What kind of a person would want this? That would never happen in a million years. And I could see his face and he was smiling. And I said, "Why are you smiling?" And he said, "I knew you had that connection. I'm going to get out of your way now."
Oh,
And he hung up the
I
phone.
have goosebumps.
Uh-huh.
And for 2 months, I was just upset that I was following this man who would want me to kill my dog, and I didn't understand what he did. And then I went to church with my husband one day, and they were talking about in the Bible when God said, "Could kill this son, blah, 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 to show me that you're da, da, da." And I went, I don't think that that's what God really wanted to happen there. I think God was trying to push them into their heart. And maybe people weren't because they were saying you're children. And maybe some people did it and they didn't pass that test because they were supposed to be chased down into their heart. So the native teachings talk about the heart being a second brain. And they've been saying that all along. The heart is a second brain. And science is finally starting to catch up. They've discovered it's 80% neurological cells, and they actually believe that now memories are stored there. And the heart is giving more information to the brain than the brain is giving to the heart. They've discovered that. But the native teaching is the heart is the second brain. And the good red road walks out of your head and into your heart, and you live from this place here in the heart. The medicine wheel teachings are all about getting to the center and living from the heart. All of that is about that. And so I got to that heart place. And what was interesting is when I discovered what he had really done, what he was really doing with me in that process was breaking me of that fear and forcing me into my heart, that I went to him. I drove up to him. I had my mom in the car. I drove up and I walked up to him and I just started crying. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I yelled at you. I didn't understand what you were doing. And he started crying too. And he took me to the side and he was crying too. And we're both just blubbering away. And he said, you took me with you into your heart, because we were connected when that happened. Mm-hmm. And he said, no one has ever done that before. I've never experienced anything. It was the most beautiful thing. He said, when you shrunk into your heart, you took me with you. And my consciousness was inside of your heart. And he was crying. He's like, it's the most beautiful love I've ever felt in my life. He said, it was the most beautiful thing I've ever felt in my life. And he was so happy that I was back. And he said, I've never had that experience ever before. And that's why he was smiling. But yeah, so that's what that happened. But, through the whole process, you're just going along with whatever the person's fears are. Mm-hmm. And then he taught me the bones of native medicine is what he called it. Native medicine without all the ceremonies. And he says, how does it work underneath the ceremonies? What is it doing? And by teaching me that, he said, I want you to take these things, the bones of native medicine, and mix it with what you're already doing to help people. Mix it with that and help the people out there, because all of this, the ceremonies and all of that, that's something that's meant to be started as a small child to aid the stages of human development. And if it isn't done, then it's too late. So he said, now that you know how it works to aid in the stages of development, to become a human being, because the majority of the people on this planet are not human beings. They are human doings. They never developed into a human being. They missed some stages of development, and it's causing all kinds of dysfunction in their lives, in their perception, in everything, in every relationship. And what's interesting about that is that when he was helping me through my stages of development, I didn't know that's what he was doing. I had no clue anything about any of that. All I knew was that I said to my husband, you can't talk to me like that anymore. I'm a real person now. You can't talk to me like that anymore. I'm a real person now. And I felt like I had suddenly become a real person. I had never been real before, but I was suddenly a real person. And that is how it felt. So when he started, after all of it, he started teaching me the stages of development to become a human being, everything underneath native medicine and how it works to help support a person's growth and development. When he started teaching me about that part, about becoming a human, becoming a real person, I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what it felt like. I felt like I wasn't real before, and suddenly I was a real person and I mattered. And you can't treat me like that anymore. I'm real. I'm a real person with real feelings, and I don't deserve that. And then one of my adopted daughters, she had a friend who came to her and said, she was crying, and she says, I just want to be a real person. I just want to be a real person now. And she's crying and crying. And she was part native from a different reservation. And she says, you just need to talk to my mom. I think you just need to talk to my mom. Can I take you to my mom? So she called me and she says, my friend needs you. I said, for what? She goes, can I bring her to you? And I said, sure. So she drove up, she sent her in and shut the door. And there she was, this crying girl. And I said, what's wrong, honey? And she said, I just want to be a real person now. And I said, oh, I see why she brought you. She's heard me say, I am a real person now so many times. She was also talking about feeling the energy of plants and animals, all things that she'd heard me say. And she thought, oh, this must be a native thing. You just need my mom. And I helped her do the same. I helped her guide her through that. And I'm just going to say that my native elder guided me through the hardest times of my life. You know, it was truly a fight within myself, but he helped to guide me through that, encourage me through that. And I don't think I would have made it without him. I don't think I would have. And so when it's come in my journey, in my path, when people are put in my path that I can help them, I help them if I can. You know,
That is amazing. Yeah.
It is.
the thing is that sometimes people defend where they are. They defend where they stand.
Mhm.
And then you're like, okay, I guess our walk is over for now. Come back when you're ready. You know, when they defend where they stand, they're just not ready to go any further. And you just have to accept that.
Yeah.
So-
And that's probably okay because they're where they are for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they will know when it's time.
Yep. Exactly.
This
Yeah.
has been amazing. Totally
Yep, and
amazing.
We're at our time. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a clock here.
wow, no. Like, I looked down, I couldn't believe what time it was, actually.
You know
No, you tell a good story. You're amazing.
Thank you. I
I
could
hope
talk
we
for
can do
hours.
this again sometime.
Absolutely. Anytime.
We have
Anytime.
some work to do, girls.
Yes, we
Yes,
do.
we do.
But thank you so much, Jen, for being here with us and sharing all of that with everybody. And I hope everybody truly takes this to heart. Anybody who is on Facebook or any other platform, this is one of the shows that you really need to share with everybody because it's so important that people realize there's a lot more to remembering who we are than to being stuck in fear. And we're all here for you. So
Fear is the enemy, always.
Yeah. Jen, I did share your information via chat, whatever.
The chat in there.
Yeah. And if anybody wants more information, let us know. For
Awesome.
sure.
Thank you, ladies. I can't wait to see you.
I can't wait either.
I know, it'll be fun.
Okay. Thank you all. Have a beautiful day. And
Bye.
keep looking up. Bye. We love you.